I came here tonight to play chess. A game of chess is like a sword fight. You must think first, before you move.
All right. Welcome back. We're moving on into King. I believe we're moving into checks now. Let me share the screen to see where we are. Okay, yes, we are going into checks now. So we finished all of the king. Well, we finished most of the king moves. We still haven't done castling yet. We're going to look at check, different types of checks, and looking at legal moves. We did some legal moves before. Oh yeah, and I'd like to apologize for my last video and maybe some videos before. You know, these videos when I actually record footage back to back to back. Then I go back and edit, you know, throughout the week. But I just realized that you all are not seeing any of my annotations as I kind of scribble over the board. I did a whole bunch of elaborate moves, kind of showing the way the pieces move and things like that, so it'll be easier to see where the king can and cannot move. But I didn't realize that it wasn't being recorded with the regular Zoom recording, so I'm sorry about that, and I don't really know how to make that happen. So I'm just gonna move on from this point. I will just make sure I'm not trying to do any annotations, or at least wasting video time trying to mess with annotations when they're not working. So I'll do a lot of, you know, cursor movement, you know, where I can, and we'll just have to work with that. All right, so going into checks. So a check is when an opponent's piece is endangering or threatening to capture the king. That's what a check is. So this bishop has his king in check, and the king must get out of check by either moving out of the way or placing a team's piece in that path, blocking the check, or if there was a piece that could capture the checking piece, that will also work. So you can either move out of check, you can block the check, or you can capture the checking piece. So if that's possible. In this position, the only thing we can do is move out of the way. We don't have anything that can capture or block. So, let me get back to where we were. All right, so click on the piece that is checking black's king. This piece is checking black's king. Bishops move diagonally, remember? Okay. Click on the piece that is checking black's king. So this bishop, bishop diagonal. Okay, so this bishop is not threatening the king. This king, well, that won't happen. We don't even have to talk about the king. The king cannot move within one square of each other. So, but anyway, you can't be in check by a king. Rook moves horizontally and vertically. So the king is out of line. The king is out of line with the rook. The last piece is the knight, which moves in the L shape. So 2 in turn. So that means this knight will land right on this king. So this knight is threatening to capture the king. So this king is in danger of being captured. So it is in check by the knight. Okay, click on the piece that is checking black's king. Click on the piece that is checking black's king. So bishop diagonal, rook vertical, running smack into it. So it is the rook that is checking the king. The rook has the king in danger. The king has to get out of check. Take on the checker. Let's see. diagonal, L, diagonal. Look at that. Bishop, knight, L shape. Nope. Rook, vertical, horizontal. That's not it. All right, so the bishop. All right, I may let you do it. Take a second, and then I will click on it. All right, there you go. The pawn. Remember, the pawn takes diagonally. So, and remember the pawns. The white side is set up on 1 and 2. The black side is on 7 and 8. So these pawns are actually moving this way. If some of you might be kind of looking upside down, this pawn is not moving backwards. It was set up on this side, so it's moving forward. And this pawn can capture diagonally. So it has the king in check. All right, who has the black king in check? All right, if you said the white queen, you are correct. Knight is going around it. Knight has this square, this square, this square, and this square, but it doesn't land on the king, so it's not the knight. All right, bishop is missing it. Bishop is missing. This knight is not far, not in range. Okay, rook is missing it. So the only piece we have is the queen. Okay. Giving you a second. All right, if you said the white rook, you are correct. You said the white rook, you are correct. So, can't move. I'm sorry. So yeah, the rook moves vertically and horizontally. So this is the rook. Bishop diagonal, pawns out of range, knight here and here. Rook is straight across. Up. All right. This queen has his diagonal too. So everybody else is missing. Rook is on. Hey. Click on the piece that is checking. We're still checking. Okay, that's the bishop. Who's the checker? Rook, straight across, up, bishop, diagonal. This knight is an L shape, 2 and turn. So it is the knight. Who's checking? I'll give you another second. All right, you said the rook, you are correct. Rook goes straight. So that is the one that's endangering the king. Knight is this square, the bishop has his diagonal, this bishop has this diagonal. So the rook is the only one checking the king. Okay. Bishop here, knight, 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 rook, rook. So there you are, bishop, straight diagonal. Who's checking? Bishop missed, knight missing, this knight is missing, this rook is missing. All right, and again, black is set up on 7 and 8. So that means we're looking at this pawn going in this direction. So this pawn is checking the king because it takes diagonally. Okay, who's checking this time? Knight here, here. Nope. This knight is here and here. Remember, we don't care about anything but the destination square for this knight. So even though it's moving kind of around it, it's not landing on it. So this knight is not the one. The only thing checking this king is, yes, the queen. It moves diagonally also. Okay, who's checking? Rook, right? Straight up. All right, so that does it for the king for now. We are going to jump right over to the next topic, which will be capturing with check. So we are wanting to now put the king in danger. So we want to give check. We want to check the king. All right, we want to check the king, meaning we want to move in a position to where we are going to be endangering or threatening to capture that king on the following move. So remember, the rook moves vertically and horizontally. So if I move this rook and I capture this pawn, I will then be checking the king on that new horizontal. Same thing here. If I move and I capture this pawn, I will be now checking that king vertically. All right, those are the ones. All right, let's give check again. Move here and give check. Move here and give check. None of these other pawns will work. Here and here. Okay. Rook moves here, I check the king. Rook moves here, I check the king. The king would have to then get out of check. Let's check that king. Giving you a couple seconds. There and there. All right, let's check the king. All right, let's see how we can get on that same, either the same rank or the same file. So in order to get over there, we can capture this pawn or that pawn. That gets us on the same file or rank along the line with that king, forcing that king to get out of the way. All right, now we want to safely capture a pawn and give check. To safely capture a pawn, that means we're not going to endanger this rook while we're trying to give check. So for example, if I capture this pawn, it will be a check, but then I will quickly lose this rook to this bishop. So if I take this pawn, then this bishop is just going to recapture on that square. So we'll just lose the rook. That wouldn't be a good trade for us. We don't want to take a pawn and give up a rook. It's a bad trade. Remember, the rook is worth a lot more than this pawn, especially in this position. That will be a big loss for white. All right, even though we don't even have a king, but you can ignore that. All right, so anyway, this pawn is not a safe capture, but I can capture that pawn safely. Okay, that gave check. That's the one we were looking for. Okay, so if I take this pawn, this knight is going to capture it. That's not safe. So we don't want to give up this rook. We want to safely move and capture the pawn. So I can go ahead and capture here. That works. And as you see, this one will be a bad one because you'll get caught by the knight. All right. Okay, let's move this bishop and give check. So We can give check here, but it wouldn't be a good check because you will just get captured by the king. Remember, the king can move, it can block, and it also can capture. So if I were to take this pawn, it would be check, but the king would just capture back. So our safe check will be bishop. What? Oh, okay. I guess they want us to give up this pawn. So I didn't get the. So I guess they do want us to give up the bishop. All right. So I gotta capture a pawn. My bad. I didn't follow instructions. So let me go ahead and capture the pawn. All right. So I would not do that though. All right. In a regular game, I would not do that. That would just lose the bishop. The king would just take the bishop right back. Okay, move the bishop to capture a pawn and give check. So we will capture a pawn this time. All right, so we can capture this one, but it won't give check. We can capture this one. This one checks the king. That one does check the king. All right. Move the bishop to capture a pawn. So which pawn can we capture to give check? So which one is going to make us end up on either this diagonal or this diagonal? That one does nothing, but we can capture here. That gives the check. Move the bishop to capture a pawn and give check again. Let's look at these pawns we can capture. We can capture this pawn, we can capture this pawn, we can capture this pawn, but none of those three give you check. We want to check at the same time. We're checking this king. We are endangering this king now. This king has to get out of check. Hey, click on all the pawns. Bishop can give the capture check. So this one, right? There you go. All right, so where else can we give check? So boom and boom. All right, so I think we have beaten this one down to the pulp. I think we've done enough of checking. So let's see what's next. Let's go with escaping check. So let's jump on to escaping check. All right, so how can we escape check? This rook has this king in check. Rook has his king in check. So what I can do to get out of check is get out of the way. These pawns can't move backwards, so we can't block anything. So we can either move here or here. That will get us out of danger from this rook. Okay. Let's get out of check. So again, this rook is checking us on this 8th rank. So if I move here, that will still be in check because the knight controls these two squares. Remember the L shape. So we can't move into check either. So we got to get out of check. The only square we have left is that square. That's the only square that's not controlled. All right, black can escape check by running away. Click on all the squares, which the black king can safely flee. All right, again, we're in check by the rook, so we can move here. And that's it. Oh, yeah, that's it because the bishop controls that diagonal, so we can't move to this square. All right, so that's all we got. Okay, so let's find a check. Who was endangering the king? So we look around, who has it? This bishop. It's checking the king from all the way over here. So what can we do? All right, so this is black. So we can actually, I'm gonna follow instructions this time. All right, they want us to run away. We can also move this pawn up to block that check. Remember, we can run, we can block, we can capture. But this one says to run away. So that means we need to run away. All right, so we have this square. This rook controls this file, so we can't move here. This rook controls this rank, so we can't move anywhere down on that rank. So the only square we have is here for the king to move. Okay, let's run away with the black king again. All right, so here is controlled by the knight. This square is okay. This square is okay. Nothing's guarding that square, and this square is fine. The rook controls that last rank, and that'll do it. All right, so we'll make this the last one, and then we'll move on to the next. All right, so the bishop has the king in check. Let's get out of check. We can't move here because the pawn is guarding that square. We can move here though, and we can move here, and we can't move here because the bishop controls this whole diagonal. So we have here and here. The knight controls both of these squares as well. This knight is controlling this square, plus the bishop is controlling that square. So that'll do it. All right, cool. All right, let's jump to the next one. Okay, let's look at some legal moves. Okay, click on the piece that is illegal for white to move. Okay. For king, all of these are still dealing around the king. We haven't really gone into too much tactics and things like that yet. We're still learning how the moves go and how things move. So another rule is the king cannot move into check, and you also can't move another piece that puts the king into check. So this is what this one is about. We can move the knight. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we can move the knight. But if we try to move this pawn up, it will put the king in check by this rook. See that? So if we move the pawn up, that will be an illegal move. That is an illegal move. That's a move that we cannot do because we are not able, we're not allowed by the rules to put the king in check or to move the king in check. So this pawn is what we're looking for. I don't know why those are highlighted. All right, so this pawn is illegal to move. All right, so click on the piece that is illegal for white to move. All right, let me give you a couple seconds to find it. So we're looking for one of our pieces that if we move it, it will put the king in check. It will put our king in check. If we move it, it'll put our king in check. And that will be illegal. That's something that we cannot do. Okay, so that will be this rook. If we take this rook and we move it, this bishop will now be threatening the king. We can't do that. Cannot do that. So that rook, we cannot move it. That will be an illegal move if we try to move that rook. All right, we'll do a couple more of these, and we'll keep on pushing. All right, so what piece, if we moved it, will be illegal? We're talking about the white pieces, so. We move this queen, that's fine. We can move the queens, no problem. This bishop, same thing, no problem. This knight, we can move it. All right, we're not putting our king in danger. But if we move this rook, we will be putting the king in check by this bishop. This bishop would now be endangering our king. So that will be an illegal move. We cannot do that. Cannot put the king in danger. We cannot put the king in check. All right, one more. This is the last one. So let's see which piece will be illegal for white to move. All right, so this queen is fine. Pawn is fine. Bishop is fine. Okay, the rook is fine. Yep. But what if I move this knight? What will happen if I move this knight? If I move this knight, well, if I move the knight, now this queen could just come straight down and jump on the king. So that's an illegal move. We cannot move and put our king in check. This knight is actually pinned to the king by this queen, and we'll talk about pins later on. All right, so this knight will be legal. This will be an illegal move for this knight. This knight cannot move. All right, so that does it for legal moves. And good, that's where I'm gonna stop this one. And we'll come back with castling. After castling, we'll look at checkmate and draws and stalemate. I'll put that in a future video. And that'll do it. So I'll see you next time.
We saw them practicing with each other. Their kung fu is first class.